May ego. Hindi
There's
pwede ma-wave
people
yun.
So, may I just remind everyone to kindly mute their microphone so that we can have a smoother information session. Okay, I think most parents are in. The logging in has already slowed down. Am I being heard loud and clear? If anyone can give me a signal of any sort to let me know I'm being heard. Okay, I see many, many thumbs up. Okay, that's good. Thank you for coming to this parents orientation. So this particular breakout session is meant for the IB parents. I would like to welcome back our cohort 12 parents, grade 12 cohort 12 parents, and welcome also to our cohort 13 grade 11 students. We have quite a number of IB students coming in for grade 11, the largest that we have so far in the history of Xavier School. So that's cohort 13. Let me begin. There has been quite a lot of information shared in the previous session that you attended. Most of the pertinent information was already shared there. We're supposed to end at 3:30, so I'll try to make things concise. There's a lot of information. I'll try to make them as bite-sized as possible. And then rest assured that this is not the last time I will be meeting with you parents. There will be several other sessions for various purposes in order to keep the information flowing and digestible throughout the school year. Okay, so let me begin. Let me introduce myself. If you do not know who I am yet, I am Mr. Paulos Wapenko, previously the junior high school department chairperson. So I may have encountered some of you in that role. But this year I take on the role of IB Diploma Program Coordinator. Before I get into the meaty part of this session, just a quick update of a recent development or a recent event. Just last month, we actually had the closing program for cohort 11, and that was done on site. So the students and parents were invited to go on site. I think since the pandemic started, this has been the first official on-site event, a return to Xavier for IB. So it was an on-site event, very, very inspiring to see students and parents coming on site as if it were normal again. So just sharing with you a few photos, and this sort of gives us hope of what to look forward to. Of course, we remain cautious and mindful of protocols and policies to ensure that we are able to give the best experience to our IB students, even though we are transitioning to a better, hopefully a better normal. Okay, let me begin the official part of this orientation by introducing to you our faculty and staff under the IBDP department or office. I will not linger too long on each slide. Also, don't worry about taking down notes. My slides or the pertinent information for this orientation will be sent to you either via email or through the Access website. Okay, so let me begin by introducing to you the teachers of each subject group for IB. I'll just quickly go through their names. Again, no need to take notes. This will be sent to you. So for English, we have Ms. Bisenio, Mr. Chopitea, Ms. Marcelo, Mr. Nicolai. I don't know if this is good news to my students last year, but I will still teach Langlit this school year. So there. I'm excited to see my students again. And oops, I think I'm there. For language acquisition, we have Lao Shi Liu, Lao Shi Yang, Lao Shi Zhao, Mr. Maghuyob, and Ms. Cuevas. For individuals and societies, we have Miss America, Mr. Buen, Ms. Bernardino, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Lau, Mr. Mercado, Mr. Nolasco, and Mr. Reyes. For the sciences, we have Mr. Bernardo, Mr. De La Cruz, Mr. Howard, Miss Malihan, who is currently on leave. So for the first semester, a substitute physics teacher will take over, but she will come back for the second semester. We also have Mr. Quijano, Mr. Sales, Mr. Yatco. For mathematics, we have Mr. Aguila, Mr. Castaneda, Mr. Monfero, Mr. Pradel, and Mrs. Untalan. And for our fine arts, group 6, we have Mr. Brent Antigua. For our modular subjects, we have for Chinese, Lao Liu Bin. For CLE, we have Mr. De La Serna, Mrs. Sanhil, and Mrs. Guse. And for Filipino, we have Miss Davilla and Miss Satuito. Okay, and then for our core subjects, to our cohort 13 parents or students, if the terminology is unfamiliar as of yet, don't worry, I'll get to that. But in terms of subjects, like core subjects, what are core subjects? I'll get to that. But for now, just the introduction of our teachers for the core subjects, one of which is TOK. We have Mrs. America, Ms. Bisenio, Mr. Chapitea, Mr. De La Serna, Mr. Domingo, Mr. Evangelista, Mr. Maguyo, Mr. Mercado, and Mr. Monfero. These are our TOK teachers. And for another core subject, which is CAS, which stands for Creativity, Activity, and Service, we have Mr. Pradel and Mr. Yatco, the CAS coordinators for their respective year levels. And for the extended essay, the third core subject, we have Ms. Panganiban and Mr. Nicolai, who are the EE coordinators of their respective year levels. So those are your teachers for this school year for your IBDP subjects. We also have our office people. Of course, we have Miss Rocafort of the IBDP office. From the guidance office, we have Mr. Ross, Ms. Tulado, and Ms. Pusta as our career counselor. And for ODS, we have Mr. Manahan. Okay, and then I'll also very quickly go through the class advisors and mentors of your respective homeroom sections. So for the grade 11, as mentioned, we have a greater number of IB students this school year, whereas before we would only usually have just 2. This year we have 3, so we have 11A, 11B, and 11C. So the advisor for 11A is Mr. Aguila, and the mentors are Mr. Reyes and Mr. Pradel. The advisor of 11B is Mrs. America, and the co-mentors are Ms. Cuevas and myself. And then for 11C, the advisor is Mr. Chopitea. Co-mentors are Mr. De La Cruz and Ms. Pusta. And then for grade 12, so for those who came from their grade 11 IB homeroom sections, you just follow the same advisors and mentors. So 12A, Mr. Bernardo, and mentors are Mr. Quijano and Mr. Mercado. And then 12B, the advisor is Mr. Monfero. And your co-mentors are, the co-mentors are Mr. Yatco and Ms. Marcelo. Okay, I apologize if I'm going a little bit fast. There's just a lot to cover, but again, don't worry about the missing out on the information. The information will be sent to you. Okay, let me continue with the main purpose of this orientation, which is academic matters. So a while ago, I mentioned that perhaps our cohort 13 parents and or students might not be familiar with some terminology. So to our cohort 12 parents, please indulge us, myself included, being quite new to the program, but there's a lot of terminology to tackle. The very basic of which can be found in this framework that you are seeing right now. So if you see the subjects enclosed in the yellow circles, those are the core subjects of IB, which include creativity, activity, and service, CAS, extended essay, and the theory of knowledge. So the idea is that they are able to apply their learnings from these core subjects to their subject groups and vice versa. And then they encapsulate the core purpose or core values of the IBDP, and the approach by which the IB delivers its lessons and skills transfer is through the approaches to teaching and approaches to learning, which is at the middle of the framework. And then I won't go through them one by one anymore, but you might hear every now and then, oh, group 1 subject, group 2 subject. So just know that each subject is in a particular category. So there's group 1 all the way up to group 6. And then the related subjects are as you see on the screen. And then apart from the 6 subjects that IB students take, they are being Savior School. We also take Christian life education and another modular subject, either Filipino or Chinese, depending on the group 2 subject that they chose. So if they chose Chinese literature for the group 2 subject, then their modular subject would be Filipino. Don't worry too much about the technicality of it. I guess when your sons receive their schedules, you will see the subjects that they are taking, which they have enlisted for last school year. Let me proceed. So there's not much to talk about in terms of grades because even during the pandemic, IB maintained the same grading system, the same numerical grading system, 7654321, and then you will see on the table on the screen what they mean essentially. And then the important thing to note also is that for SL subjects or standard learning subjects, the passing is a 3, and then the failing grade is a 2. And then for HL subjects, the passing is a 4, and then the failing is a 3. And then I mentioned already about the other subjects that they take apart from the 6 subject groups. These are the descriptors of each grade unpacked. I won't go through them anymore. If you want, you can just scan for each numerical score, the bold descriptors, what they mean. For example, for a 7, high quality, frequently innovative, comprehensive and nuanced understanding, sophisticated, critical, creative thinking, done independently and with expertise, and then so on, all the way up to 1, which none of us want. Nobody wants a 1. In fact, nobody wants a 2. So we at least want a 3 or a 4 if you want to pass. And then N is no grade. Just know that when school starts and then your sons start reporting for school, they will also receive course outlines from the teachers. And then they will also see several documents and for their assessments, and then the breakdown or the grading system or the specific rubrics for each type of assessment will be communicated. So these are really more general descriptors that can be applied across all subjects. I forgot to mention that in case you have questions, the same form that you filled out in the previous section may also be filled out for IB purposes. A little later, that form will be, oh, there you go. Thank you, Ms. Rockefeller. Okay, so same form for your questions. Okay, and then for the grading system I showed you just now is the grading system, the numerical grading system for the subject groups and modular subjects. But for the core subjects, if you remember the core subjects, they have different grading criteria. For example, for theory of knowledge, it's really just A, B, C, D, E, and then D is passing, E is failing. And then for creativity, activity, and service, and EE, it's just complete or incomplete. So there will be some requirements throughout the school year or a year-end requirement, and then per semester they will be evaluated as to having completed the requirements or not completed the requirements. There. I believe this was already addressed in the previous sessions, so I won't go through this in detail. Just know that for this school year, we go back to the OVGSU grading for conduct and effort. So OVGSU, and then same for the effort grades, OVGSU. The important thing I think many might be interested in is with regard to the return of the awards system. So you will see on the screen right now a summary of the standards that the students need to meet in order to achieve awards, whether it's academic excellence or first honors or second honors. So please note that this is no longer the same standards that we used in the previous school years during Excel and Excel 2.0. So this is more a return to the next normal uh, grading system and award system. So please note that for conduct and effort, it's now at least a V, previously at least a G. And then the score has gone back to, please forgive the typo error, but scores have now a minimum of 30 for second honors, 33 for first honors, and 38 for academic excellence. And then for CAS and EE, same, there are minimum grades and requirement to complete the requirements of that core subject. And then another thing to take note would be if you get a complete in your requirements for extended essay and an A in TOK, that will give you a +2, a bonus of +2 points in your final grade for that semester. So that might help if you're trying to achieve a certain goal, whether it be getting honors or not. But that mechanism is in place. And then nothing new really when it comes to performance tasks, formative assessments, summative assessments, and exams. Some are annually required, some are semestral. There will be formative, most likely every session. And then you also have your SEM tests. You will notice that the word semestral at the bottom row has an asterisk. I will explain why later. There's a topic that we need to discuss with regard to the SEM tests that I will address later. Let me move on. Okay, so I think the grade 12 parents or cohort 12 parents are already quite familiar with this. And perhaps the grade 11 parents and students might also be familiar, but just to remind everyone about what it means to have savior grades, predicted grades, and final IB grades. So your savior grades are your grades that you see on your report cards. When you finish the IB program, you will still get your report card and your savior diploma. So this is the same report card that you see every semester and the same grades that you will see on your report card when you graduate Savior School. Now, the predicted grades, this is more significant for the grade 12 students. There is a period of time, a phase wherein students and parents may request for their predicted grades, which teachers based on their previous year's performance and whatever performance they have delivered in the current year. These are primarily used for college applications because by the time that you are applying for college, your IB grades are not out yet. So that will be based on predicted grades. I will reserve talking more about in detail about this topic in a later session. So I will address this topic more in detail at a later time, but know that that's what the significance of predicted grades is. And then for the final IB grades, that's when you take your externals. And then eventually the results are released sometime in July. Those are your official final IB grades based on your externals, and that's what you will see on your IB transcript from IBO there. And then just note that for cohort 12, your final IB grades will be released in July 2023 after taking your externals this May 2023. And then for cohort 13, sorry, typo, it's 2024, not 2023. Class schedule. Mrs. Tedrido already showed you a typical class schedule for senior high school. The only thing I want to highlight here would be that, as mentioned, IB students will have to start their classes just a little bit earlier. It's just so we have to start our classes at 7:45, and then the last academic subject or the last class will be up to 3:05, and then your homeroom up to 3:25. And then something different in case the grade 12 students got used to a certain routine last school year. So now your CAS and EE will be done during Fridays, during the online Fridays. So that's already set every Friday from 9:30 to 10:30. And then we will just give you a schedule because CAS and EE interchange sessions, and you will just be informed in advance what session you will be attending for that Friday. But here's a quick summary of what that whole thing means. So your academic periods are from 7:45 to 3:05, and then you have your recess and lunch, and then homeroom from 3:05 to 3:25, and then consultation, which is not really a requirement, but if need be, you may make an appointment with your teacher for consultation. And then Friday, as I mentioned, there will be CAS, and also from 1 to 2 your ECA. Uh, I don't know if this will really make sense to you, but just to let you know, for the number of minutes per subject, it's 200 minutes per week for group 4 subjects, that's the sciences, except for sports science and comsci, and group 5, which is mathematics, your math AI and math AA. And then 150 minutes for the other subjects, and then 100 minutes per week for TOK and modular, and 60 minutes per week for CAS and EE. I think what would make this significant is it may serve as a reminder that there's very limited time for our class encounters, especially if we compare it to pre-pandemic times, wherein there were really more number of minutes or even hours per subject enabled to cover the IB curriculum. Learning resources, again, I'll just go through this very quickly. For most subjects, you will be provided the learning materials by your teachers. In some cases, you will receive an ebook, for example, for Filipino and sports science. The codes will be provided by your teacher, but we expect this around early to mid-July. And then for Chinese, you will receive your printed copies of your learning materials. For history, the resource book or the reference book is available for borrowing in the at the LRC. We have enough copies for everyone. And then for Cognity, which is like an interactive textbook or a resource material, e-learning resource material. The subjects that you see listed on the screen are the subjects that have access to Cognity. It's learning resources and preparations for assessments. In terms of learning management systems, we will still use Schoology as the centralized course site for the IB subjects, but we want to go back to manage back more and more. I don't think your cohort experienced the full extent of using manage back because cohort 12 started during the pandemic already. So we will ease in going back to manage back and maximizing its features. But for now, to transition this school year, we still stick to what you're familiar with, which is Schoology. And I think everyone is familiar with Turnitin and Assess Prep. Even the incoming grade 11s, you already started using Turnitin last school year. But there will be a refresher course on this, and your teachers will also guide you on how to use Turnitin. We still use the iPads, and for the GDC calculators for cohort 12, grade 12, you should have already received the email from the high school LRC regarding the pickup of your GDC calculator for this school year. If you have not, you may please look for that email by high school LRC. It was sent to parents and students. You may still pick up, or if you want, you can just wait to come into school during the orientation. And then for cohort 13, we are expected to receive your GDC calculators around mid to late July. But your math teachers have been informed about this, and then we will see what we can do if in case you already need to use your GDC calculators earlier. And then the IB office will just release a memo with more specific details regarding the rental or purchase of the GDC calculators for cohort 30 for grade 11. And then let me proceed with student support. So this is more the pedagogical and philosophical aspect of it. So just know that there is a very solid framework in place with regard to how your teachers plan your classes and employ strategies. Also with the aim of allowing you to acquire specific skills that will help you survive your IB journey and instill the needed skills for you to excel in college and in life in general. So I won't go through this anymore in detail. These are the skills I mentioned that we hope to imbibe in our students in IB to make sure they succeed. And these are the same skills that are unpacked. How do we actually address drawing out those skills from our students? So these are just some examples. So essentially what this just means is the system behind how IB teachers prepare you, not just for your assessments, but more long term would be your external exams, and more long term would be how to best prepare you for college and your future careers. So just to reinforce how we maintain our international standards, how we have constant communication with other with a network of DPs, IBDP schools in the Philippines. We also provide students with study hall and consultation sessions. For the online students, as you know, being online has its disadvantages, but we will do our best to make sure that our online students are not left behind as much. So we continue our Excel our Excel practices for our online students, and teachers also go through various forms of training, both locally and internationally. And we also have a group of teachers who take the route of being an examiner, and in doing so, gets to align their standards, their teaching and evaluation skills for assessments with that of IB internationally and how it's done in our school. We also provide a boot camp. I'll talk more about this later on. But just know that our boot camp, the students' boot camp, it will start on the first 2 days of the students' orientation. That's June 20 and 21 next week. I'll give further details later on, but we do initiate this every start of the school year to help transition the students, to help prepare them for the school year that's to come. We also have a dedicated career counselor, predicted grades consultation. We have a dedicated XSIB email for communication when needed. I say generally small class sizes because in as much as we want to keep very small and intimate class size, sometimes logistics serve as constraints. So we cannot help but have increased class sizes for some subjects. Mentioned some of these already. Just to reinforce and to assure you that the excess IBDP standard of delivering the IB education or the IB program, in as much as we can, as much as possible, we maintain a high level of standard that is at par with the other international schools in the country that also offer the IB program. What to expect? It will be quite a year of adjustment, especially with the high flex. For the grade 11s, this isn't to scare you, but rather just to manage expectations. There will really be a learning curve, and that's normal because you are adjusting both to senior high school setup, which is already an adjustment by itself, and you are also adjusting to IB standards. And IB standards are based on international standards. So there will really be an adjustment. But believe me, after that learning curve, as you get adjusted, you will really see very evident results in how you learn how to do things better, how to think about things better, how to apply skills better. So just be very patient with yourself. I know there will be certain disappointments that you will face, whether it is with grades or with your the amount of work that you have to accomplish. But just be very patient with yourself and just continue dedication and consistency in your study habits will really go a long way. And then for grade 12 students, more major assessments coming up this school year. So if in the previous school year, it has been consistently mock exams, mock orals, mock tests, there will be more major assessments this school year. And then this is the school year where you will submit your final requirements for EE, TOK, CAS, and your internal assessments, while at the same time worrying about college entrance tests or college applications. Really, this is just to give you advice, but to each their own in the sense of how you could best cope with the challenges of IB. So to our parents, please do provide your sons with the needed support in terms of discipline, consistency, self-management. It was very, very difficult during Excel, during online distance learning. Now that there is an avenue for them to go on site, hopefully that will improve. And for those who will still go on site, it will really take a lot of discipline in order to perform well in the IB program. We also advise the parents to be involved in their students' studies, but please remember that a good balance of guidance and looking after, and at the same time trusting your sons, will yield better growth for your sons as learners. And then share with them your real life experiences when you were students, or not just the good things in life, but maybe the harsh realities, maybe facing disappointments, and how to overcome challenges. So be involved in your son's academic life, and at the same time, giving them that certain level of trust for them to grow as learners. To our students, consistency is key. Discipline is key. It would be best for you to allot a certain number of hours of study. There's really always something to do if you are an IB student. So pace yourselves. Your teachers will always give you time to accomplish things, time to prepare for things. So when that time is given, maximize it. Don't cram. Cramming is a sure formula for failure. And then I know you're also worried about the next phase in your life. What college do you go into? So yes, that has to have some space in your life, in your the things you worry about. But balance is key. So always continue to take care of your mental wellness. Okay. For IB High Flex, so there may have been an expectation that because some IB classes are quite small in size, in fact, some are just 7, some maybe just 5, some a little larger, but many of the IB classes are less than 20, which is the limit for physical classes. So you might wonder, how come we are still alternating when in fact our class size is small? So I think this was already explained by Mrs. Rodrigo a while ago. One, we want to enter the school year with the same system for the entire high school. It will be too chaotic to have varying systems for junior high school, senior high school standard, and senior high school IB. So that's one. But as we go along, as we move forward, as we gain more experience, if a system of doing things surfaces, particularly for IB, with regard to the alternating on-site students, so then we will review it and see what can be done. But just allow us this time to go through the motions, and then see how we can improve whatever system that we will be implementing. Another would be logistical constraints. For example, I may belong to a class that is less than 20. Let's say it's very small. Let's say it's only 5 to 7 students in that class. But I might be a member of another class that has more than 20. So in that class, I have to go alternating. But in this class, I supposedly do not need to go alternating. So it's quite chaotic in that sense. So we just want to go through that system of everyone goes to the same system first, and let's see. If ever there will be a review and implementation of changes, we will most likely do them if there are the same time that junior high school transitions from the first semester to the second, rather, this is the first term to the second term. So we might not have to wait until the end of the second sem to implement improvements, if any, and if needed. And then one thing I'd like to highlight would be, per the latest communication of IB, all schools internationally, everywhere in all countries, are to already reinstate assessments that were taken away during the pandemic. And in May 2023, you will cohort 12 will already have the externals. So if there were certain assessments taken out in your curriculum in some subjects last school year, this is more in particular to grade 12. Those will be reinstated already this school year. And therein lies the challenge, because as you know, we did not really go back to our normal school hours. We are still limited in terms of the time we're able to provide for classroom instruction, and we have to prepare you for semestral tests. And speaking of semestral tests, these are the plotted dates for the SEM tests for this school year. This is still subject to change, but what would be important here would be to take note of the general timeline. So we start classes next week, and then towards the last week of October would be the SEM test for the first semester. And then for the second semester, when we come back to school around November 8th, and then the semester ends around March 17th, and then the plotted SEM test dates are written there, but that's subject to change. But that's just to give you an idea of the timeline. Now I go to why the SEM tests are in asterisk. As mentioned, your teachers are challenged to prepare you for external exams this May 2023. I'm talking more to the grade 12 cohort 12 students, but for the cohort 13 grade 11 students, would be good for you to know, because this is what's coming up next for you next school year. So we are challenged to prepare you for external exams this May 2023, while still dealing with the same constraints that we as a school had during the pandemic. So that's very challenging for us. Why am I mentioning this? Let me start by showing you some photos. I try to make them obscure as much as I can, because technically I'm not supposed to show you, but similar to other teachers, I actually also did some examiner work during the summer. And when you're an examiner, you check actual test papers of actual students from different countries. And sometimes I really could not read the handwriting of students. So here are other samples. You can see a lot of comments there. Here's the worst one, where there's practically the 2 paragraphs are scratched out. Why am I showing this? You have all been in Excel 1 and Excel 2, all taking tests online. And yet we are challenged to prepare you for externals this coming 2023. It's a different platform altogether. For the externals, you really have to go physically to the testing site, sit down, have paper with you and a pen to write, physically write. So if you no longer have the skill of proper handwriting, that will be a problem. And plus many other factors. So please consider that, as you yourselves have experienced, online is not the most ideal platform for learning. But we do understand the context of some families and some students. That's why the school has allowed the choice of online schooling for this school year. And despite that challenges, the commitment of IB teachers remains to really do our best to prepare you for what lies ahead, uh, while while preparing you for international standards that you will face when you do your externals. So those are some things to consider. So for you to consider further, the importance of semestral tests, the SEM tests, because the SEM tests are our mechanism. It's a mechanism for us to really prepare you for the externals. That's why we call our most of our assessments are called mock orals or mock paper one or mock paper two, because we simulate what that actual test would be and how it would be taken in the externals. It's just that during the pandemic, we were limited to an online platform. Uh, so consider how taking semestral tests on site would be extremely beneficial for your sons. So just some points I listed would be uh, being able to practice actual test taking using paper and pen, training themselves to pace themselves, because it's different when you're typing and then you're using an iPad or a gadget versus taking the test using paper and pen. You will have to pace yourself. If you remember one of the pictures I showed of many scratches, that can happen. And then there's also that aspect of anxiety. So I think there would be less anxiety if you are taking your test at home versus being in an actual test site with a more formal setting with other students taking the test, with invigilators present. You have to get used to that. So one of the last things I would like to communicate would be uh, how the IB office would like parents who have decided to go on site, online rather, to go online to reevaluate the choice uh, of taking SEM tests on site. Okay, so as the on our end, as the SEM tests as they draw near, we will release a memo inviting our online students and parents of online students to give consent to allow your students to come to school on site to take the SEM test physically. Actually, dear parents, truth be told, the IB department as a department wanted really to impose IB students to go fully on site. But of course, as I mentioned, we have to be understanding and respectful of individual and family contexts. But if there's something that we hope to be able to achieve is that all students of grade 12 come SEM test, be able to come to school and practice taking the test on site. So when that time comes near for the SEM test, do expect a letter from the IB office inviting you to give consent for your sons to go on site for the SEM tests. Uh, Really, you have everything to gain from this option. That's the last thing I want to talk about with regard to academics. Uh, Nearing the end of my part, so in the end, uh, the goal is to mold your sons into the IB learner profile. So the traits you are seeing on the screen right now is what we hope your students will develop, nurture, and have, because these will be lifelong skills that they will take with them in going to college and onwards. And if they have imbibed, if they have nurtured these traits, then their chances of success in life are really much higher. So I guess as a reflection question or as a way to almost close, I still have announcements later, but to almost close this session would be for parents and teachers as well to reflect on how do we help our sons, our students in developing these skills that you see on the screen to become thinkers, inquirers, knowledgeable, communicators, open-minded, principled, balanced, reflective, risk takers, and caring. If you notice, these are traits that are really very relevant in our context nowadays, whether it be related to what's going on in our society, or even just in terms of maybe more personal goals of getting into a specific college that I want, or even more large scale in terms of global issues. These are really skills that will help your sons maximize their potentials and make their lives successful and meaningful. Okay. I think this is my last slide before I end. So just some important dates and reminders. As mentioned a while ago, June 20 and 21 will be the boot camp days for grades 11 and 12 IB students. Uh, Mrs. Tadrido mentioned a while ago that the next 2 weeks will be the orientation days. So that's also true for IB students, except that on 20 and 21, all IB on-site students will have to report to school. So if you remember, there's the blue batch and the gold batch. So blue batch goes on site this week, gold batch goes on site next week, and then alternating. But just for these 2 days on 20 and 21, we will invite all on-site students, blue and gold, to come to the IBDP bootcamp. There will be a special schedule for grades 11 and 12 IB. You will not follow the regular schedule of senior high school standard just for those 2 days. So even the online students will follow the schedule that the IB office will release, I think by Thursday, latest by Thursday. So, and after those 2 days, we will just include the schedule of the remaining orientation days so that you don't have to look at two memos all the time. So our memo from IB will include the schedule of the IB students for June 20 and 21. Again, all on-site students, blue and gold, are invited to go on-site. And then come June 22, Wednesday, everything goes back to normal, meaning the the gold batch need not report on site for that week anymore because they go back to the regular alternating system. This will be explained in further detail in the memo we will release. And then just some immediate dates for you to consider would be June 24th, which is a holiday next week. And then just remember that after June 20 and 21, the remainder of the orientation days will follow the same as that of standard. I know there might be concerns, especially by the grade 12 parents, about college applications, about predicted grades. We will have a separate session for that. We will also be joined in that session by our career counselor, who will be able to advise the students more accordingly with regard to their options and their options for college, uh, and how the predicted grades come into play with regard to their applications. For further inquiries, you can ask, if you have questions, you can ask them using the form that has been sent on the chat box. And then please know that you can always email or call our office, ibdp-mail@xs.edu.ph, and our phone number is 872-30481 local 4201. That's it from me. I'm sorry if I was talking too fast or if this session was happening too fast. Uh, I think that's it for this session of IB. We were supposed to end at 3:30, but it's already 3:57. I think many have already left. So I think that's the end. I think that's the end of this session. For those who would like to ask more questions, please fill out the form on the chat box. And then as mentioned, you can email us. With that, thank you very much. Have a good day and good luck to all of us for this upcoming High Flex school year. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.